I'm a Canon shooter, okay, but despite the horrible prejudice that internet commenters think I have against Sony, I'm gonna be real about the a6700. There's three main categories that I want you to consider when we're picking the perfect camera for YouTube or content creation. Now, I have tested more cameras than the average person, and YouTube is my full-time job, so I feel like I kind of have a bit of a leg to stand on here. And the first thing that the perfect camera for YouTube needs to be is versatile. We want a hybrid that shoots great video and good photos in that order. I put this one up here because it's the most obvious, but actually this third one is the most important. The Sony a6700 has this same 26 megapixel sensor as their cinema line FX30, which to no surprise means that it shoots incredible video. One massive downside with this sensor for creators though is that since it is an APS-C crop sensor, you're gonna get less background blur in all of your images, and it'll be harder to get a wide angle view because all of your focal lengths are cropped by 1.6 times. A 17mm lens like this is still kind of like technically wide enough to vlog on with an APS-C sensor camera, but it's a little bit tight. So if you want something that is wider and give you more of that vlog look, I would go with this Sigma 10 to 18mm. Despite this one drawback, the a6700 is still a beast. It shoots 10-bit 422 S-Log3, which means you'll get a bunch of awesome dynamic range and rich colors. Plus it has a dual native ISO of 800 and 2500, which means you'll get less noise in low light situations if you're using ISO 2500. As far as frame rates go, the 6700 gives you more than enough options with 4K video uncropped all the way up to 60 FPS, which is your most common slow motion frame rate, and it's perfect for things like B-roll or sports. It does also shoot 120 frames per second in 4K, but that'll give you an additional 1.5 times crop on top of the 1.6. And the image quality falls off quite a bit here, so does the dynamic range. So I wouldn't call the 120 a viable shooting mode in most cases, not that most people would really need it anyway. Now the FX30 does all of this and more, so the question might be, why wouldn't we just get the FX30? And the reason is the a6700 has much better photo taking capabilities. You can shoot raw photos in bursts of up to 11 frames per second, which is decent, and there's an electronic viewfinder which we'll get to in a minute. Obviously you need a good photo mode on your camera to take high quality thumbnails, but I'm also gonna take a gamble here and say that if you're into YouTube and taking videos, you're gonna end up getting into photography at least a little bit at the hobbyist level, and the 6700 would not disappoint at all in that category. The second thing that makes the perfect YouTube camera is Envato. Wait, that's not right. Envato is the sponsor of this video. And they help you create amazing videos in another way, by giving you access to millions of amazing creative assets to use in your edits. From music and sound effects to fonts and graphics, Envato has you covered. Their stock footage library has an absurd amount of B-roll and overlays that you can use to bring your edits up a notch. And they have thousands of automated templates and transitions that make adding motion graphics to any of the major editing softwares easier than ever. If you want your a6700 footage to look incredible, but you're not really sure where to start with color grading, Envato even has LUTs that you can use that will make this footage look super cinematic. The best part is no matter what type of content you're creating, whether that's YouTube videos, wedding videos, or web commercials, Envato has you covered with one super simple license at $16.50 per month that will give you unlimited downloads of tens of millions of assets. If you're interested, I have a link down in the description below for you to go check it out. Thank you, Envato, for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to talking about the camera. Now the actual second thing that a perfect YouTube camera has is a small form factor. Have you ever been in like sort of a sketchy spot and you realized that you were holding thousands of dollars worth of camera equipment and basically anybody would be able to tell that you're carrying thousands of dollars worth of camera equipment? It's not fun. The idea is the smaller the camera, the less attention you draw to yourself, and that's always a good thing, whether it's for your safety or if you're just a raging introvert like me. Most mirrorless cameras these days are pretty dang small, so I wouldn't say that the a6700 is unique in this, but it's still noticeably smaller than my Canon R6. I'm actually not sure that I would want the Sony to be all that much smaller because it's still comfortable to hold, and you lose a lot of that comfort once this grip starts getting smaller. The a6700 has almost every feature that I would ever want from a camera. You've got 3 settings dials, one on the front, one on the top, and one on the back. There's 2 customizable buttons and a programmable dial, a flip-out screen that works perfectly for filming yourself, and an EVF that I feel the need to defend. See, a lot of people don't like the placement of this viewfinder, and maybe you're one of them. Personally, I like it a lot, and here's why. My big nose gets in the way. If the viewfinder is on the top of the camera, I'm bumping into it with my nose. With the viewfinder on the side, I can just rest the camera on my cheek, my nose goes to the side. I just think it's a lot more comfortable. Vertical shooting feels totally fine to me too. I don't think it's a very strange or awkward switch from horizontal to vertical. The only thing I would say is I wish that they gave the viewfinder a little bit softer of a rubber around the eyepiece, just because it would make it feel more comfortable. And that's it. I assumed the wrong way. That's all I wanted to say. I like it. Overall, my experience with this camera has just been so enjoyable and easy. Remember, I came to the a6700 from using Canon bodies all my life, so I'm not even really familiar with the user interface. But there's something about this camera that it really clicks, and that is actually the third thing that the perfect YouTube camera has. It's just easy to use. From a hardware standpoint, this camera delivers because it has all of the buttons and dials that I want for manually shooting, plus it has a touchscreen that I can mess with and change the settings on while I'm filming myself without having to screw around with all the buttons and turn it around. I can adjust everything here, which you would think would be a standard thing, but you can't do that on the a7 IV, which is a more expensive camera, and we're not gonna get into the a7 IV. People don't like my opinion of the a7 IV. We're getting sidetracked. Back to the 6700, it has a photo, video, and S&Q mode dial so that you can switch between different shooting modes super quickly. The most impactful thing here is the S&Q mode because you can set it either to a time-lapse mode or a slow motion video mode. I have it on slow motion video, and I think most creators should as well, because when you're shooting A-roll at 24 frames per second in your regular video mode, and then you want to shoot some B-roll, all you have to do is flip it over to S&Q. All of your settings change to the slow motion video mode, and then you can just go right back to shooting A-roll when you're done with the B-roll. It is super fast. You don't have to go in and manually change all of that stuff, and I love it. I wish my R6 Mark II had that feature on it because that's a game changer. The a6700 also comes equipped with Sony's AI autofocus software, which is ridiculously good in both video and photo modes. This is something that is absolutely imperative for a good YouTube video camera because you're gonna have to trust autofocus in like 95% of your shots when you're filming yourself. Take it from a Canon shooter who hates to admit defeat, but this camera is absolutely incredible, and I almost wish that I switched systems for it. It is the closest thing I've been able to find so far to like the perfect dream camera, but there are a few things that I would change about it. So here's my wish list. Full frame. I want a full frame sensor in this thing for that wider field of view and that deeper depth of field. Next, give me a joystick on the back to adjust my focus points. This isn't like a huge thing, but it would be a nice touch. And finally, I want dual SD card slots. The a6700 actually only has one, which is kind of risky because in the rare event that an SD card fails, you're toast. Everything that you've captured is gone, which is actually another reason why I kind of wouldn't recommend this for weddings or more professional use cases, because that would be a disaster. You can buy these guys used for around $1,200 or brand new for around $1,400, which in the world of cameras, especially something this powerful, is like ridiculously good value. But if you want to know what Sony camera I don't think is good value, you should watch this video over here where everybody's yelling at me in the comments section.